Hey guys, tonight we're wading knee-deep into the warm, turquoise shallows of the 12th century Maldives, where the ocean sighs like a contented cat and your toes sink into sand finer than powdered jade. You're not here for the overwater bungalows or the Instagrammable sunsets, though. You're here because beneath these waves and under the roots of swaying palm trees, forgotten Buddha statues sleep like sunken secrets, waiting for monsoons to shift the sands and whisper their stories. It's achingly beautiful, sure, but let's be real. You'd probably last 3 hours before the humidity melted your resolve like a candle in a sauna, or a rogue hermit crab mistook your big toe for prime real estate. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Wherever you're drifting off tonight, Toronto, Tokyo, or Timbuktu, drop a comment with your location and local time. Feels like magic, connecting across time zones like this. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Salt crusts your lips as you balance on a wobbling Donny fishing boat, its hull painted the blue of a parrotfish's scales. Ahead, Malay Island hums with the chaos of 1,000 coconut husk bonfires and the rhythmic thwack of coir rope being woven. You're posing as a coral brick trader, a risky gig, since the Sultan's spies are everywhere since the official pivot to Islam a few decades back. Your real mission? Salvaging the last serene stone face of the Buddha from a half-sunken stupa before the next king tide swallows it whole. The mainstream fact hits you like a warm wave. The Maldives was Buddhist for over 500 years before Arab traders and their persuasive pearl tariffs swayed the royal court. You're here for the quirky fallout. Whispered tales of Fandatha shamans who curse anyone moving coral bricks from ancient viharas, claiming the stones wail like heartbroken ghosts at midnight. Spoiler, you'll move them anyway. That Buddha head makes a fantastic doorstop in your hut, curses be damned. Historians still argue whether the conversion was truly peaceful or if convenient chronicles just forgot the swords. You're ankle-deep in lagoon muck now, fingers scrabbling against barnacle-crusted coral blocks. Each brick is lighter than you'd think, porous, like fossilized sponge, and colder than the ocean should allow. There's a rhythm to the salvage, heave, rinse in salt water, squint for carved lotus petals. Suddenly, your knuckles brush something smooth amidst the rubble. Not coral. Stone. His stone. A serene, moss-flecked face stares up through the water, lips curved in that timeless half-smile that says, "Took you long enough, kid." You grin, even as a hermit crab pinches your thumb. Worth it. Around you, fishermen chant Quranic verses for safe nets, utterly unaware you're smuggling a 4-foot chunk of the island's band past in their own boat. The irony's thicker than monsoon clouds. You tuck the statue under a pile of dried skipjack tuna, the smell alone is a better disguise than any cloak, and pray to every god available that the Sultan's customs agent has a weak nose and weaker curiosity. As the sun bleeds orange into the sea, you wonder if the Buddha minds the fish juice. Probably not. Enlightenment and ode to mackerel? Just another Tuesday in the Dharma. Salt still stings your eyes from yesterday's dive, and frankly, you smell faintly of mackerel despite 3 dawn swims. But today's task is quieter, deeper. You're not a salvager anymore, today. You're a coral brick artisan for the Silent Guild, a secretive brotherhood of Buddhist stonemasons working underwater since the conversion. Your lungs burn as you sink beside the reef's crumbling edge, a chisel in one hand, a weighted slate diagram in the other. Above, the dappled sunlight fractures like broken glass on the surface. Below, the ocean floor whispers with the scritch-scratch of parrotfish nibbling limestone. You're carving replacement blocks for the hidden vihara foundations being eaten by starfish and time. The mainstream fact anchors you. Maldivian coral bricks, hiriga, were cut underwater while still soft, then air-dried into impossible hardness, an ancient technique lost by the 14th century. You're here for the quirky secret. Guild masters claim certain coral patches vibrate when struck correctly, humming old mantras back at you. Turns out, it's just pistol shrimp colonies nearby. But don't ruin the magic for them. Historians still argue whether these submerged temples were functional shrines or just poignant, sinking memorials built by the stubbornly faithful. Your fingers trace the rough outline on the living coral head. It's slower work than land carving. Every hammer tap on the chisel sends a dull thump through the water, scattering iridescent goatfish. Bubbles rise like liquid mercury from your lips. You're shaping a lotus base block, each petal a painstaking labor against the tide's push. It's meditative. Really, if meditation involved occasional panic when a curious blacktip reef shark glides a little too close, inspecting your progress like a finned foreman. The guild's rule is simple. Work only during the slack tide, vanish before the Royal Patrol boats slice the horizon. Their boats, you note with gentle sarcasm, are suspiciously low freeboard. One good wave and those inspectors become enthusiastic, sputtering coral inspectors. You imagine them auditing fish. Ledger imbalance, Sergeant. This school of yellow tangs is 3 fish short. Suddenly, a sharp tug on your ankle rope, the lookout signal. Patrol. Now. You shove the chisel into your belt, grab your slate, and kick towards the shadow of the overhang. Above, the dark hull of a sultan's bag gala schemes past, oars dipping like water bugs. You press against the cool reef wall, barnacles biting your shoulder. Heart thuds in your ears, louder than the boat. They're scanning for smugglers, not sculptors. Still, discovery means explaining why you're carving perfect 12-inch cubes 20 feet down. Reef, decoration. Very symmetrical reef decoration, Your Excellency. Not convincing. As the hull recedes, you notice a crack in your nearly finished block. Corals fickle like that. One wrong tap, and months of work sigh into sand. You pat the damaged stone. Impermanence, buddy. The Buddha would have nodded. Back to work. The tide turns in an hour, and the patrol always circles back. Time to carve like a monk chased by enlightenment. That cracked coral block feels like a metaphor for your entire life right now. Abandoned on the seabed as you pole a leaky bakura canoe through a labyrinth of mangrove roots thicker than a sultan's beard. Rain hammers down like pebbles thrown by an impatient sky, turning the narrow channels into swirling, tea-brown soup. Monsoon season. It's the only time to move salvaged artifacts. The Sultan's patrols huddle in port. Convinced only madmen or desperate fishermen brave the churning lagoons. You qualify as both. Your cargo today? 3 small, water-worn Buddha heads wrapped in oiled palm fiber, nestled beneath a pungent layer of dried bonito flakes and bitter melons. Mainstream fact. Maldivians mastered monsoon navigation using star paths etched on coconut shell charts and the scent of distant islands carried on specific winds. You're relying on the quirkier method, Old Man Varus. Your smuggler contact insists the mangrove mud itself whispers safe routes if you press your ear to the canoe hull during high tide. It's probably just burrowing crabs, but hey, you haven't capsized yet. Historians still argue whether these risky monsoon runs were acts of religious preservation or subtle rebellion against the new orthodoxy. The canoe scrapes against a submerged root, jolting you sideways. Water sloshes over the gunwale, soaking your feet and making the bonito flakes swell like sponges. The smell intensifies, a fishy, earthy funk that clings to your nostrils. Ahead, the channel forks. Left looks wider, calmer. Right is a choked tangle of aerial roots dripping with ghost crabs. Varus's mud whisper advice echoes. When the water winks silver under the rain, take the path that fights you. You grimace. Right it is. You jam the pole deep into the sucking mud. Muscles straining against the current trying to spin your little boat like a leaf. Rain drips off the end of your nose. It feels less like navigation, more like wrestling a very damp, very stubborn octopus. At least the patrols are dry somewhere. Probably sipping sweet lemongrass tea. Lucky them. You imagine their commander's perfectly coiled turban slowly unraveling in the humidity. Poetic justice. Hours blur. Rain, pole, scrape. Rain, pole, scrape. The mangrove canopy closes overhead, plunging you into a green-tinted twilight. Fireflies flicker like lost stars. Just as numbness sets into your arms, a low whistle cuts through the downpour, Varus's signal. He materializes like a wraith from behind a curtain of prop roots, his own canoe laden with suspiciously lumpy sacks of yams. The exchange is swift, silent. Your 3 Buddha heads vanish under his yams, his payment, strings of tiny cowrie shells, still the island's shadow currency, lands with a soft plop at your feet. He nods towards the seaward exit. Customs shed. One sleepy officer. Distract him. Durians work best. You groan. Durians. The spiky, stinking fruit banned from royal compounds for being offensively fragrant. Perfect. You paddle towards the flickering lantern light of the customs shed, a lone durian balanced precariously on the bow like a biological weapon. The officer looks up. His oiled mustache drooping in the damp. He sniffs the air. His face pales. You offer your sweetest, most innocent trader's smile. Fresh delivery for the garrison kitchen, sir. Compliments of the monsoon. He gags, waving you past with frantic urgency, handkerchief clamped over his nose. As you glide into the open lagoon, the rain easing to a drizzle, you hear him retching. Duty done. The Buddhas are safe. And you smell like victory. And durian. Mostly durian. The durian's pungent victory clings to your clothes like a stubborn barnacle, but the sugarcane fields of Fuvamula offer a different kind of assault, a sweet, oppressive blanket of humidity that makes every breath feel like sucking on warm honey. You traded the leaky canoe for a Feli sarong and a bone-handled harvesting knife, blending seamlessly into the rows of rustling cane taller than a palace guard. Your sandals crunch on dried leaves. The sound swallowed by the constant drone of cicadas and the thwack-thwack-thwack of blades cutting stalks nearby. Mainstream fact. Fijian plantations lured thousands of Maldivian indentured laborers in the 19th century, promising wages paid in cloth and tobacco, trapping them in a sticky web of debt and distance. You're here for the quiet rebellion. Buried beneath specific cane roots, wrapped in oiled leaves, lie miniature clay Buddhas molded from Fuvamula's red earth. They're tiny anchors to a forbidden faith. Historians still argue whether these hidden figures were objects of genuine devotion or simply defiant placeholders of identity, clenched fists in soft clay. Your task today isn't harvesting cane, despite the blisters forming on your palm from the unfamiliar knife. You're here to build. Not a grand stupa, but a whisper of one. Behind the overseer's back. During the sweltering noon break when even the flies nap, you slip into a dense thicket where the sugarcane hasn't been thinned. The air is thick, still. Here. Using flat stones pried from a boundary wall and fragments of discarded coral bricks smuggled in a grain sack, you slowly assemble a knee-high altar. It's crude. Lopsided, a far cry from the coral marvels sinking offshore. You mortar the gaps with wet clay mixed with sugarcane pulp. It smells faintly of molasses and desperation. A quirky ritual surfaces. Laborers whispered that pouring the first drops of stolen cane juice onto the altar ensured the overseer would develop an allergy to sunshine. Spoiler, Overseer Rahu is famously ruddy-faced. The juice probably just attracted ants. Still, the gesture matters. You place a tiny, thumb-sized clay Buddha you shaped last night onto the altar's center. His smile is lopsided. One eye slightly bigger than the other, less enlightened sage, more pleasantly surprised garden gnome. You offer a shred of dried coconut, a luxury ration saved from breakfast. It feels absurd, profound, and slightly sticky. Suddenly, a sharp whistle pierces the drowsy air, breaks over. You scramble, kicking loose dirt over the altar's base, disguising it as a mere pile of field debris. As you emerge, cane leaves scratching your arms, you nearly collide with Old Man Callow. His rheumy eyes flick from your dusty knees to the suspiciously disturbed earth behind you. He doesn't speak. He simply presses a smooth, water-worn pebble into your palm, pure white quartz, cool against your skin. Then he's gone, melting back into the green wall of cane. His curved spine a silent question mark. The pebble feels heavy. Is it a blessing? A warning? Or just payment for not asking questions? You tuck it beside the lopsided Buddha in your pocket. The afternoon sun beats down, turning the field into a steam bath. The overseer barks orders. You raise your knife, the blade flashing dully. Thwack. Another stalk falls. Sugar sap beads on the cut end, glistening like a tear. You swipe it with a finger, tasting the fleeting sweetness. The altar is hidden. The Buddha is safe. For now. The ants, however, are already convening a tiny council around your coconut offering. Let them debate its theological significance. You've got cane to cut. The sugarcane's sticky sweetness still clings to your skin like second sweat, but Fuvamula fades behind a veil of sea spray as your fishing dhow crashes through the monsoon swell. That white quartz pebble from Callow burns in your pocket, a silent compass needle tugging you northeast. 3 weeks of salt-crusted travel later, you stagger ashore in Silla, Korea, where the air smells of pine resin and damp earth instead of brine. Your hands, still calloused from cane knives, now grip bamboo tongs twice your height. You're here for bronze. Specifically, the sacred bronze that sings. Mainstream fact, Silla's mill bell, cast in 771 CE, could resonate for over 3 minutes, a feat modern metallurgists replicate with lasers but never match. You're apprenticed to Master Huang, a man whose beard resembles storm clouds and whose laugh shakes temple rafters. He needs strong backs for the great dragon bell. A commission for a seaside monastery where winds howl like hungry ghosts. Historians still argue whether the bell's legendary voice came from precise tin-copper ratios or monks chanting sutras into the molten metal. The foundry is a soot-stained cathedral of heat. Furnaces roar like caged typhoons, painting everyone in dancing orange shadows. You haul charcoal bricks, each one leaving black fingerprints on your tunic that won't wash out for weeks. Master Huang barks orders above the din, stack higher. The dragon's breath must bite the sky. His quirky obsession? Testing resonance on living things. Yesterday, he placed a sleeping cat, Grumpy, named Bong Sun, inside the clay bell mold, to see if the purr becomes part of the song. The cat escaped, leaving only indignant fur behind. Bell testing remains blissfully feline-free. You wipe sweat from your brow, leaving a charcoal smear. It feels less like sacred art, more like volunteering in a volcano's kitchen. Disaster strikes at dawn casting. The clay mold, taller than 3 men, cracks just as the glowing river of bronze pours. Molten metal hisses through the fissure like angry honey, splattering toward the apprentice's platform. You freeze. Time slows. Someone screams, "Duck," in panicked Korean. You don't duck. You grab the nearest tool, a wet oxhide shield, and slam it down like a gong over the breach. Bronze spatters against leather with a sound like frying eggs, the stench of burning hide thick in your throat. One droplet sears your forearm. You bite back a yelp. Master Huang bellows, "Hold it, Islander, or we'll be wearing bells as shoes." Later, inspecting the cooled bell, Master Huang traces the rippled scar where bronze met hide. A flaw, the monastery's abbot sighs. But Huang grins, tapping the uneven patch. A deep, mournful shudders through the ground, deeper than the bell's main voice. Hear that? The dragon's growl. He slaps your burned arm, making you wince. Your island hide saved the song, boy. Now it's part of the soul. You flex your bandaged arm, the pain throbbing in time with the fading resonance. That quartz pebble in your pocket feels suddenly cool. Maybe bells, like faith, aren't about perfection. Maybe they're about the scars that sing loudest. That seared patch on your forearm throbs in time with the temple's pre-dawn drum, a living metronome to the rhythm of monastic life. You're kneeling on frigid flagstones in the bell pavilion. Breath misting in the air thick with pine resin and the ghost of yesterday's incense. The great dragon bell hangs above you, a dark, silent giant. Its scar, your scar, gleams dully in the lantern light, a frozen river of bronze where the oxhide shield met chaos. Mainstream fact, Silla bells weren't just rung. They were invoked at precise hours using a swinging log striker called a tuchik, timed to harmonize with the monastery's chanting for maximum spiritual resonance. You're here for the unexpected consequence. The scarred patch resonates a fraction slower than the rest of the bell, creating a deep, dissonant hum that lingers under the main tone like a subterranean river. The monks call it the dragon's sigh. Historians still argue whether such flawed bells were considered spiritually defective or uniquely blessed conduits for the raw, untamed voice of the Dharma. Your job? Assistant bell ringer. Which mostly means hauling the massive, moss-covered tuchik log into position before dawn while senior monk Boram, who smells perpetually of pickled radish and serenity, chants the invocations. It's back-breaking work. The log is slick, unyielding, and seems actively hostile before sunrise. Feel its spirit, child, Boram murmurs, watching you strain. It slept poorly. Like you. You resist the urge to tell the log exactly where it can put its spirit. 3 light jokes per section, remember? You imagine the log complaining about drafty bell pavilions. And another thing. The acoustics in here? Murder on my grain. Boram taps the scarred bronze with a weathered knuckle. Today, we listen for the sigh. It is hungry today. A quirky monastery legend claims the flawed resonance eats sound, swallows stray echoes, misplaced prayers, even the abbot's occasional snore during meditation. Hence, the hunger. Reality. It's just acoustical interference. But try telling that to novices leaving rice cake offerings beneath the bell. First light bleeds gray over the mountains. Boram grasps the ropes. You brace the log. Now, he breathes. He swings. The tuchik connects with a world-splitting buonji that vibrates up your spine, rattles your teeth, and makes the quartz pebble in your pocket buzz like an angry bee. The pure, clear note of the bell soars, shaking dew from the pine needles. Then, it comes. The sigh. A deep, almost subsonic that wells up from the scar, vibrating the flagstones beneath your knees, settling in your chest like a physical weight. It's mournful. Ancient. It doesn't fade with the main note, it persists, a sonic shadow. You feel it more than hear it, a deep pulse in your bones, sinking with the ache in your burn. Boram closes his eyes. A faint smile touching his lips. The dragon stirs. Good. Good for whom? Your molars feel loose. Later, sweeping the pavilion, you notice them. Tiny. Sticky rice cakes tucked into crevices at the bell's base. Novice offerings. You nudge one with your broom. Hungry bell, huh, you mutter. A young monk, cheeks flushed, scurries over. Respect the sigh, he hisses, snatching the rice cake. It guards our sleep. Eats bad dreams. He glances around nervously, and maybe the cook's terrible turnip stew echoes. He darts away. You lean your broom against the scarred bronze, pressing your uninjured palm flat against the cool metal. The vibration is faint now, almost imperceptible, like a sleeping beast's heartbeat. The dragon's sigh. Your scar's song. Maybe imperfection was the point all along. Not a broken thing, but a different kind of whole. A bell that sings in two voices, one for the sky, one for the depths. You pick up a stray rice cake. It's slightly squashed. You eat it. Turns out, even divine sound eaters don't guard against mediocre snacks. That phantom thrum of the dragon's sigh still vibrates in your bones, a deep counterpoint to the crisp snap of pine branches underfoot as you follow Master Huang up the mountain path. The air bites sharp and clean, smelling of snow yet to fall and the damp earth of the forest floor. Your forearm itches fiercely beneath its bandage, the dragon's autograph. Huang carries a bundle wrapped in coarse hemp, its contents clinking softly with each step. Tools. Not for bell making this time, but for listening. Mainstream fact. Silla bell casters meticulously selected remote mountain sites for testing new bells, believing pure air and undisturbed silence revealed a bell's true voice. You're here for the fringe science. Master Huang insists specific valleys act like giant stone ears, amplifying flaws into discernible whispers. Historians still argue whether these expeditions were acoustical experiments or elaborate spiritual retreats disguised as metallurgy. The chosen spot is a natural amphitheater, steep, moss-covered granite walls cupping a small, frozen lake. Silence hangs heavy here, broken only by the distant cree-cree of a hawk. Huang unwraps his bundle. Small bronze replicas of the great dragon bell, each cast with intentional flaws, a bubble here, a thickened lip there. We listen for the sickness, he grunts. Placing one replica carefully on a flat rock by the frozen shore. The mountain will sing it true. His quirky method involves pouring ice-cold spring water over the miniature bell before striking it. Shocks the truth out, he claims. The truth usually involved a slightly wetter, slightly colder apprentice. You shiver, pulling your thin robe tighter. The cold seeps through your straw sandals. You imagine complaining about frostbite. But the mountain air clarifies the spirit, young islander. Huang would boom. Right now, your spirit feels mostly clarified into a block of ice. He strikes the first flawed bell with a small mallet. Ting. The sound is thin, reedy. Huang frowns, pressing his ear almost to the frozen ground. Weak. Like a kitten's sneeze. He gestures impatiently. You. Island ears. Listen deep. You kneel, the cold rock biting through your knees, and press your good ear to the earth near the bell. At first, nothing. Just the thud of your own pulse. Then, a faint, discordant buzz, like a trapped fly vibrating against glass. It makes your teeth ache. Hear it? Huang whispers, eyes gleaming. The flaws whisper. Like sand in the bell's throat. He seems bizarrely delighted by the imperfection. You nod, your cheek numb against the stone. The quartz pebble in your pocket feels like an ice cube. Suddenly, a deep, resonant boom echoes through the valley, shattering the fragile silence. Not from Huang's miniatures. It rolls from the distant monastery, the great dragon bell itself, ringing the midday hour. The sound washes over the amphitheater, powerful and clear. Then comes the sigh. Up here, miles away, it's transformed. Not a subterranean rumble, but a vast, throaty hooum that seems to rise from the lake itself, making the ice creak and vibrate beneath your knees. It fills the valley, deeper and longer than you ever heard at the pavilion. Huang throws his head back and laughs, the sound echoing off the granite. Hear that? The dragon doesn't sigh. It roars up here. The quirky monastery legend takes a hit, if the sigh eats sound. Why is it louder in this pristine silence? Perhaps it doesn't eat noise, perhaps it is the mountain's own voice, awakened by the scar. The final miniature bell, flawed with a deep pit in its side, rings with a dull clunk. Against the fading echo of the dragon's distant roar, its flaw sounds insignificant. Petty. Huang doesn't even bother with the water test. He pockets it, looking thoughtful. Maybe, he murmurs, gazing towards the monastery, now a smudge of gray roofs far below, maybe a perfect bell is a lonely bell. Only the scar lets the mountain sing back. He pats the cold rock beside him. You sit, the profound chill finally seeping past numbness into a strange kind of peace. The dragon sigh fades, leaving only the wind sighing through the pines. Your own flawed, scarred body hums faintly in sympathy. Master Huang offers you a sliver of frozen pear. It tastes impossibly sweet. Below, the valley holds the echo. Above, the hawk circles, silent. The mountain's icy clarity dissolves into the gritty haze of the Taklamakan desert. One moment, you're tasting frozen pear, the next, sand grits between your teeth like ground bone. And the sun hammers down with the weight of 1,000 anvils. The white quartz pebble, cool comfort in Silla's chill, feels like a branding iron in your pocket now. You're hunched beside a grumbling Bactrian camel named Old Grudge, its breath smelling of stale hay and existential resentment. Welcome to the Silk Road's western fringe, where the air shimmers like a mirage and oasis guards squint at every trader like a potential tax evasion scheme. Mainstream fact. Imperial Chinese law demanded taxes paid in coin or silk for any paper goods crossing the frontier, a brutal blow for Buddhist sutras written on precious palm leaves. You're here for the subterfuge. Sutras rolled tighter than a scorpion's tail, hidden inside hollowed camel saddle horns packed with fermented mare's milk. The smell alone is a force field against inspection. Historians still argue whether these taxes targeted religion specifically or were just bureaucratic greed weaponized against fragile cargo. Your contact. A Uyghur trader named Arslan, whose smile shows 3 gold teeth, slaps Old Grudge's flank. He groans like my mother-in-law, but carries like a mountain, he chuckles. Handing you a goatskin water bag warm as blood. Guards at Human Pass today. Nasty ones. Noses like bloodhounds, brains like bricks. He winks, tapping the saddle horn you're supposed to inspect for structural integrity. A pungent, vinegary odor leaks from the wax seal. You gag. Arslan beams. Fermented arag. Guards hate it. Smells like regret and old cheese. Understatement. It smells like something died in regret and old cheese. You unfasten the horn's cap, trying not to breathe. Inside, slick with sour milk, rests a palm leaf scroll. The Heart Sutra. Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Currently smelling strongly of fermented regret. You reseal it, wiping your hand on your robe. Old Grudge belches. The human pass checkpoint is a chaotic symphony of shouting merchants, bleeding goats, and the bored snap of imperial seals on cargo manifests. Guards in dusty lamellar armor poke bales of silk with spears, demanding paper tariffs with weary menace. Your turn. A guard with a scar bisecting his eyebrow squints at Arslan's manifest. Camel saddles. 2 pair. He eyes Old Grudge's bulky frame. Inspect. Your heart thuds against your ribs like a trapped bird. The quirky defense mechanism kicks in, the guard steps closer. Sniffs the saddle, and recoils, his nose wrinkling like crumpled paper. By the celestial emperor's beard. What died in there? You offer your most clueless trader shrug. Special, saddle polish. Very nourishing for the leather. From Fergana? You gesture vaguely west. The guard stares at the suspiciously moist saddle horn, then at Arslan's gold-toothed grin. He glances at the long line behind you, the sun beating down. Historians might debate tax motives, but this guard clearly values his lunch. He waves a dismissive hand, holding his nose. Go. Before you poison the air. You nudge Old Grudge forward, the Sutra safe in its stinking cocoon. Arslan whispers, see? Brains like bricks. Told you. You breathe deep, instantly regretting it, tasting sand and victory. And fermented mare's milk. Mostly mare's milk. Hours later, camped under stars sharp enough to cut silk. You carefully extract the sutra. The arag has soaked into the edges of the palm leaves, giving the sacred text a unique bouquet. Unrolling it gently, the moonlight reveals delicate brushstrokes. Gate paragate. Gone, gone, gone beyond. You snort. Beyond smelling like fermented horse milk, hopefully. Arslan roasts mutton on a skewer. Guard took 3 bribes today, he muses. 1 silver coin, 2 bolts of cheap linen, and a promise to never bring that saddle near him again. He tears off a piece of meat, offering it. Your saddle polish scared him straight. Maybe the Dharma is emptiness, empty noses. You chew the tough mutton, gazing at the sutra. The smell clings. Maybe enlightenment wasn't meant to be fragrant. Maybe it smelled like sweat, sand, and survival. Old Grudge groans in his sleep, dreaming, perhaps, of odorless pastures. You tuck the sutra away. Tomorrow, another pass. Another guard. Another chance to weaponize terrible smells in the name of wisdom. The desert wind sighs, carrying the faint, far-off jingle of another tax collector's coin purse. You pat the quartz pebble. Still warm. Still quiet. Still pulling you eastward, one stinking saddle at a time. The desert's rasping wind and Old Grudge's fermented saddle horn stench dissolve into something almost worse, the cloying scent of beeswax, stale lavender water, and the faint, greasy undertone of mutton chops reheated one time too many. You're perched on an absurdly small, gilded chair in Lady Agatha Davenport's Mayfair drawing room. Your calloused hands dwarfing a porcelain teacup thinner than a dragonfly's wing. Rain streaks the tall windows overlooking Grosvenor Square, turning London into a smudged charcoal sketch. That persistent quartz pebble feels like a lead weight against your thigh. Mainstream fact, the 1870s saw a Victorian craze for Oriental wisdom. Fueled by Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Society and returning colonial officers' tall tales, transforming profound Buddhist concepts into fashionable parlor games. You're here for the painful dilution, wealthy Londoners earnestly mispronouncing karma. Is it like carmine, my dear? Such a fetching pigment, while nibbling cucumber sandwiches. Historians still argue whether this parlor Buddhism represented genuine spiritual curiosity or merely exotic intellectual decor, like a stuffed Bengal tiger head over the mantelpiece. Lady Agatha, swathed in enough lilac silk to sail a small yacht, beams at you. Our dear Eastern sage. Do demonstrate the meditation again. Bartholomew simply must grasp the art of inner quietude before his Cambridge entrance exams. Bartholomew, a gangly youth whose Adam's apple bobs like a buoy in a storm, looks more likely to grasp spontaneous combustion. You take a shallow breath, the air tastes like dust and desperation. You settle onto the Persian rug, overly floral, slightly scratchy, adopting a lotus position that makes your knees protest. Observe, Bartholomew, Lady Agatha trills. The profound stillness. The negation of the material. You close your eyes, focusing on the rhythmic drip-drip-drip of a leaky drainpipe outside. In. Out. Bartholomew fidgets. In. Out. Someone's stomach gurgles, possibly yours, mourning the absence of proper rice. In. Out. Bartholomew whispers, "Is he asleep, mother?" The quirky Victorian twist arrives, Lady Agatha's prized, automatic writing spirit guide, supposedly a Tibetan lama named Lobsang. A maid wheels in a peculiar contraption, a small, lacquered table with a suspended pencil. You're invited to place your fingertips lightly on the tabletop. Channel the cosmic vibrations, dear sage. Agatha urges. Bartholomew stifles a giggle. The table shudders. The pencil jerks, then scratches across paper, much fog. Seek truth within. Beware, damp socks. Lady Agatha gasps. Profound. Lobsang always warns of damp feet. The Himalayas, you know. You suspect Lobsang is more likely Bartholomew's bored toe nudging the table leg, but maintain your serene facade. The path is inward. Lady Davenport, you murmur, opening your eyes. Even from damp socks. She nods sagely. Bartholomew mouths damp socks and snorts. Your teacup refilled, tepid Earl Grey, weak as wishful thinking. You endure Sir Reginald Fitzwilliam's booming interrogation. This a nirvana of business, eh? Sounds dashed final. Like retiring to Bournemouth, but without the sea views and decent claret. He chuckles at his own wit, jowls trembling. Is it true you chaps can levitate? Saw a frightfully clever fakir in Calcutta once. Floated right above the punkah fan. Useful trick for avoiding drafty floors, what? You offer a thin smile, recalling the sheer physical effort of hauling coral bricks underwater. Levitation would indeed be handy. For avoiding Sir Reginald. True mastery lies in stillness, Sir Reginald, you intone, resisting the urge to demonstrate stillness by fleeing the room. Not rising above the world, but seeing it clearly. He blinks. Right. Clear. Like that claret. Speaking of. He gestures for a refill. The quartz pebble in your pocket pulses faintly, uncomfortably warm. Is it reacting to the spiritual dissonance or just proximity to the roaring fireplace? Historians might debate that too. The evening's grand finale is Lady Agatha's prized possession, a small, smug-looking jade Buddha figurine, purchased from a most reputable Chelsea curiosity shop for the price of a housemaid's annual wages. Is he not exquisitely serene? She sighs. Placing it on the automatic writing table. Such a presence. The Buddha's serene expression looks suspiciously like disdain for the surrounding bric-a-brac. Bartholomew leans in. Looks a bit like Uncle Thaddeus after too much port. Lady Agatha swats him. You examine it. The carving is crude. The jade cloudy, likely a mass-produced fake shipped from Birmingham via Calcutta for maximum exotic markup. Yet, placed on the spirit table, the pencil twitches. Agatha gasps. The pencil scrawls. Home cold. Wrong shelf. Mutton bad. A stunned silence. Bartholomew explodes in laughter. Even the Buddha hates cook's mutton. Lady Agatha flushes puce. Lobsang is being droll. Cosmic humor. You hide a smile behind your teacup. Perhaps there is enlightenment here after all. Not in the jade Buddha, nor Lobsang scribbles, but in the sheer, ridiculous humanity of it all, the yearning for meaning, however mispronounced, amidst the lavender and the damp socks. As you slip out into the foggy London night, the quartz pebble cools slightly. The rain feels clean. Real. Ahead, the docks beckon. Time to find a ship heading somewhere the Dharma smells less like reheated mutton and misplaced intentions. The clatter of London's handsome cabs fades into the rhythmic tink-tink-tink of a bronze chisel against sun-warmed marble. 1 week you're dodging mutton-scented spiritualism, the next, you're squinting in the blinding white glare of a Gandharan stonemason's yard, circa 100 CE. The air here smells of dust, hot stone, and crushed almonds. Workers snack on them constantly, spitting shells into the carving debris. That quartz pebble, nestled against your hip, hums faintly, almost approvingly, near the raw marble blocks shipped from the Hindu Kush mountains. Mainstream fact: after Alexander the Great's conquests, Greek artisans in the Kushan Empire fused Hellenistic realism with Buddhist iconography, creating the first human-like Buddha statues, wavy hair, draped robes, and noble features borrowed straight from Apollo. You're apprenticed to Kairos, a grizzled Bactrian Greek whose forearms are thicker than temple columns, learning to carve divine serenity into stubborn stone. Historians still argue whether these Apollo Buddhas represented genuine cultural synthesis or just savvy marketing for a faith spreading along Greek-influenced trade routes. Kairos slaps a block of milky white marble. See the vein? Like a lazy river. Carve with it, boy, not against. Or the nose snaps off. Again. He glares at a pile of discarded, noseless Buddha heads in the corner. Your yesterday's work. The quirky workshop rule? New apprentices must carve 10 noses blindfolded to feel the ideal curve. Kairos insists. The nose holds the soul's balance. Your results resembled potatoes more than divine profiles. Kairos called them rustic. The foreman called them firewood. You trace the cool marble grain. It's unforgiving. One wrong tap, and hours of work crumbles like stale bread. You imagine the marble complaining. Another nose? Honestly, try a nice abstract pillar next time. Much less pressure. Today's task, sculpting the drapery folds on a standing Buddha's robe. Kairos demonstrates, his chisel biting deep, then skimming featherlight, transforming stone into the illusion of soft, flowing cloth caught in a gentle breeze. Like water over rock, he grunts. Not hacking. Persuading. You try. Your chisel skitters, gouging a rough trough. Kairos sighs. The sound like gravel shifting. Island hands. Used to coral. Softer. Crumbles nicely. This? He taps the marble. This remembers mountains. Be humble. He places your hand over his on the chisel handle. Together, you feel the vibration travel up your arm, the precise pressure, the subtle twist at the end of the stroke. It's less carving. More like guiding the stone towards what it already hides inside. You feel the quartz pebble pulse warmly against your side. Maybe it remembers mountains too. Suddenly, commotion erupts near the gate. A caravan from Parthia arrives, unloading not silk or spices, but crates of bronze, slender, elegant Greek-style deity figurines, Apollo with his lyre, Athena with her owl, a tipsy-looking Dionysus. A wealthy merchant wants a syncretic family shrine, Buddha flanked by Apollo and, well, probably Dionysus for the post-meditation wine. Kairos scowls. Mixing pantheons? Like blending horse milk and fish sauce. But coin is coin. He assigns you Dionysus. Make him contemplative. Or at least less likely to topple over onto the blessed one. The challenge? Capturing divine inebriation without the slur. You study the little bronze god, his grapevine crown askew, his smile blissfully vacant. Historians debate the theological implications. But your problem is practical. How much sway is contemplative versus about to hiccup? You opt for a gentle lean. Eyes half closed in what could be either profound insight or the start of a divine nap. Kairos barks a laugh. Perfect. He looks like he's pondering the fruitiness of existence. You pat Dionysus's bronze head. Maybe enlightenment and a good vintage weren't so different here on the frontier. The quartz pebble pulses again, cool now against the bronze. A silent reminder. The journey continues. Tomorrow, perhaps, Athena's owl will judge your drapery folds. Or maybe Kairos will finally let you carve ears. Small steps towards divinity, one stubborn nose at a time. The crisp scent of Gandharan marble dust fades, replaced by the acrid tang of charcoal smoke and the metallic bite of a Korean winter biting your cheeks. One moment your coaxing drapery folds from stone, the next, you're back beside Master Huang, stamping your feet on frozen earth. Watching furnace flames lick hungrily at a clay mold taller than two men. The great dragon bell's little brother, the morning dew bell, is about to be born. Your quartz pebble sits heavy in your inner pocket, a familiar, cool weight against the furnace's radiating heat. Mainstream fact, Silla bell casting required near mythical precision, the clay mold. Painstakingly built layer by layer over months, encased a wax model intricately carved with deities and cloud motifs, melting the wax out left the cavity for molten bronze. You're here for the terrifying reality. When several tons of liquid metal meet damp clay, physics becomes a high-stakes negotiation. Historians still argue whether the legendary resonance of Silla bells stemmed from secret alloy ratios, the shape of the sound bore, the yongtong, or sheer, dumb luck surviving the pour. Huang barks orders, his breath pluming in the pre-dawn chill. Charcoal. Higher. The dragon's belly must roar. Apprentices scramble. Feeding the furnace mouth like frantic acolytes tending a fiery god. The mold stands ready, a massive, enigmatic pillar etched with barely visible patterns under a coating of fire-resistant slurry. You remember the cracked mold disaster from the Great Dragon Bell, the sear on your arm throbbing faintly in memory. Huang catches your glance. No wet ox hides today, Islander. Just prayers. And maybe, less clumsy hands. He offers a rare, grim smile. The workshop's quirky ritual surfaces, apprentices must each place a personal item, a button, a strand of hair. A worn coin, into the wax model before sealing the mold. So the bell knows your spirit. Huang declared. You contributed a sliver of coral from the Maldives. Let the bell taste the ocean. You wonder if the cat, Bong Sun, contributed a disdainful hairball. The critical moment arrives. The bronze glows like captured sunset, swirling white-hot in the crucible. Huang raises a hand. Silence falls, broken only by the furnace's hungry growl and the nervous shuffle of feet on frost. Now, he roars. The tilt mechanism groans. A searing, molten river pours from the crucible, cascading into the mold sprue with a hiss like 1,000 angry serpents. Steam billows where droplets hit damp ground. The air shimmers with heat. You hold your breath, watching the bronze flow. Willing it to fill every intricate channel, every dragon scale, every lotus petal carved in wax now gone. The quartz pebble against your chest feels suddenly, unnaturally cold. Then it happens. A sharp, sickening crack echoes across the yard. Not loud, but horrifyingly distinct. A hairline fissure snakes up the mold side from the base. Molten bronze begins to weep out, a glowing, golden tear sizzling against the frozen earth. Panic flashes in the apprentice's eyes. Seal it. Huang bellows, already moving. But it's too wide, too fast. You act without thought. Snatching a nearby clay dobing paddle, thick, wet clay still clinging to it, you slam it hard over the fissure like applying a poultice to a wound. The impact jolts your arms. Heat blasts through the paddle, scorching your palms even through the thick clay. Bronze bubbles furiously against the makeshift seal, threatening to burst through. Hold. Hold. You lean your weight into it, the stench of burning clay and superheated metal filling your nostrils. Sparks spit onto your robe, singeing holes. Huang is beside you, hacking more wet clay around the edges with bare, reddening hands. Stubborn islander, he grunts, but there's approval in his eyes. Like coral, plugging holes. The clay sizzles, hardens, blackens. The weeping slows, stops. The main pour continues above. Disaster averted. Mostly. Hours later, the mold cools enough to crack open. The bell emerges, steaming gently in the cold air. Its surface still dark and rough. And there, on its lower flank, is a rippled, uneven patch, bronze fused with the emergency clay plug, frozen in a chaotic swirl. Huang runs a calloused finger over the flaw. Humph, ugly as a mud-spattered badger. The apprentices hold their breath. Then he taps it with a small hammer. Thunk. A dull, localized sound. He taps the pristine upper curve. Pure, clear ring. Then he taps the scar again, harder. A deeper, resonant shudders out, vibrating the frozen puddles at your feet. It echoes the great dragon bell's sigh, but warmer, earthier. Huang's scowl softens. He taps it once more. The lingers, blending with the clear ring above into a complex, haunting chord. He grunts. The islander's choral kiss. Gave it a voice down deep. He turns to you, a glint in his eye. Maybe the bell needed a scar to sing true. Like its big brother. Like you. He slaps your shoulder, making you wince. Your palms are blistered from the clay paddle. Next time, he adds, try not to use quite so much island. We're casting bells, not building reefs. The apprentices laugh nervously. You flex your stinging hands, looking at the flawed, beautiful bell. The quartz pebble pulses warmly against your heart. Imperfections, it seems, have a way of becoming the most interesting part of the song. The morning dew bell won't ring at dawn. It will hum. And maybe, just maybe, that's better. That deep, earthborn hum of the morning dew bell still thrums in your bones as you haul the moss-slick tuchik log into position before dawn. Blisters sting your palms, souvenirs from yesterday's clay paddle heroics, making the coarse rope bite deeper. Master Huang paces like a caged tiger, muttering about untested voices and impatient abbots. The flawed bell hangs silent, its rippled, coral-kissed scar a shadow against the gray pre-dawn light. Mainstream fact. New Silla bells underwent weeks of meticulous sound testing at different hours, temperatures, and striker angles to map their resonance before installation. You're here for the messy trial and error. Today involves swinging the log with reckless abandon while apprentices note which temple roof tiles vibrate loose. Historians still argue whether these tests refined acoustics or simply satisfied superstitious fears about angry bell spirits. Huang stops pacing, jabbing a finger at the scarred flank. That lump. It's like a goiter on a songbird. Hit it here first. Gently. We don't want it sulking. The quirky workshop anxiety surfaces. Apprentices must avoid garlic and fermented radish for 3 days before testing a new bell. Bad breath clouds the sound waves. Huang insists. You secretly suspect it's to prevent apprentices from breathing garlic onto him during pre-dawn grumpiness. You brace, heave the log back. Senior monk Boram chants nearby. A rhythmic drone barely audible over your own grunt of effort. Now. Speak, lazy dragon. Huang barks. You swing. The touch it connects with the scar. Thuum. Not a clear ring. Not the deep sigh. It's a colossal, vibrating thud that punches your sternum, rattles the tools on their hooks, and sends a startled sparrow tumbling mid-flight from a pine branch. Dust rains from the pavilion rafters. Boram's chant stutters into a cough. Huang's eyes widen. By the mountain spirits. Did it just growl? Before anyone reacts. Droplets of condensation, shaken loose from the bell's cold interior, spray out like tiny, icy bullets. One hits your cheek, shockingly cold. Another splatters Huang's beard. Ack! Bell's snot. He splutters, wiping furiously. You stifle a laugh. Bell's snot. A new technical term. Again. Clean hit. Huang demands, ignoring the damp patch on his tunic. This time. You aim for the pristine upper curve. Re-thighing. Pure, clear, soaring, the classic Silla resonance. Sweet relief washes over the apprentices. Then, the after effect. The scarred patch seems to absorb the ring, vibrating silently for a second before releasing its own response. It's lower. Slower than the great dragon's sigh, more like a contented grumble from a well-fed bear. It lingers, undercutting the fading ring with palpable warmth. Boram smiles. It sings in harmony. High and low. Sky and earth. Huang scratches his beard, thoughtful. Humph, sky, earth, and wet beard. He glares at you. Blame your island coral. Made it, damp inside. You notice apprentices subtly edging away from anyone who ate radish yesterday. Testing continues. Each strike reveals the bell's dual nature. A clean hit rings true. A strike near the scar triggers the deep, chest-resonating THUUM and its inevitable spray of condensation. The brick-brained guard from the desert would appreciate the predictability. By the 10th strike, your shoulders scream, your blisters burn, and the ground beneath the bell is puddled. Huang observes a roof tile finally surrender, clattering down. Ah! Optimal resonance achieved. Right there. He points triumphantly at the puddle. See? The earth drinks the song. Or it's just runoff from the bell's internal monsoon. Historians can debate it. As dawn breaks, painting the bell in pale gold, Huang does something unexpected. He takes the tuchuk ropes himself. With surprising grace for a man built like a battering ram, he swings. Striking the bell dead center. Bung-ri-I-ing. Followed instantly by the deep, grounding. T-H-U-U-M-M-M. The sounds weave together. Complex and strangely comforting, like a mountain stream meeting the deep ocean current. Boram closes his eyes, a deep peace settling on his face. It holds the world's balance, he murmurs. Huang lowers the ropes, breathing hard. He walks to the flawed patch, places a hand flat against it. The metal is cool now. He pats it, almost fondly. Good growl, little reef bell. He turns. Eyeing your blistered hands. You. Island coral hands. Go wrap those before you bleed on my masterpiece. And find a towel. This thing's a drippy menace. As you trudge away. The quartz pebble pulses, a warm, insistent tug eastward, toward salt and sinking secrets. The morning dew bell hums softly behind you, its scarred voice already part of the mountain song. You glance back. Huang is still standing beside it, head slightly cocked, listening to the silence after the sound. Maybe some flaws aren't flaws at all. Maybe they're just duets waiting to be heard. The mountain bell's resonant growl dissolves into the thick, perfumed humidity of a Siamese palace courtyard. One moment, you're nursing blisters amid Korean pines, the next. Sweat trickles down your spine as you kneel on polished teak, balancing a shallow mother-of-pearl bowl filled with coconut oil and crushed jasmine petals. The quartz pebble in your sash feels unnaturally cool against the damp silk. Before you, seated on a low ivory stool draped in cloth of gold, is Crown Prince Somdet, age 12. His brow is furrowed. Not with royal gravity, but the universal dread of a bad haircut. Mainstream fact, in 19th century Siam, every prince underwent the top-knot tonsure ceremony, a multi-day ritual marking his symbolic transition from child to novice monk, culminating in the sacred shaving of his shinyan by royal barbers using consecrated seashell razors. You're here as the junior razor polisher. A role requiring steady hands and supreme tolerance for adolescent sulking. Historians still argue whether this ritual preserved ancient Brahmanic roots or was a clever political tool to temporarily remove princes from succession intrigues by sending them to the monastery. The head barber, Friar Rit, moves with the silent precision of a stalking heron. His tools gleam on a red lacquer tray, golden scissors, aloe wood combs. And the star attractions, 3 crescent-shaped razors honed from giant clamshells, edges shimmering like moonlight on water. The sea's gift, Friar Rit murmurs, selecting one. Gentler than steel. Kinder to the royal scalp, usually. He casts a pointed glance at your trembling hands. The quirky tension? Each razor is consecrated to a different spirit, one for wisdom, one for courage. One for minimal bleeding. Prince Somdet eyes the third razor with particular suspicion. You dip a swan feather brush into the jasmine oil, preparing to anoint the chosen blade. The air thrums with chanting monks and the drone of cicadas. The prince sighs dramatically. Must it all come off? Aunt Prey said a small topknot is fashionable this season. Friar Rit ignores him, testing the shell's edge against a single hair plucked from his own eyebrow. It parts silently. Acceptable. Oil. You paint the cool, curved edge with fragrant oil. It's unnerving, holding a blade sharp enough to shave silk, crafted from something you last saw encrusted with barnacles in the Maldives. Friar Rit begins, his movements a mesmerizing dance. The golden scissors snip the long hair, falling like black silk threads into your mother-of-pearl bowl. Then comes the shell. It whispers against the prince's scalp, surprisingly quiet, leaving behind a path of smooth skin and the faint scent of jasmine and ocean. Prince Somdet squeezes his eyes shut, fists clenched in his lap. Feels cold and tickly. Are you sure it's sharp? It feels like Aunt Prey's pumice stone. You suppress a smile. Imagine telling a future king his sacred tonsure feels like a spa treatment gone wrong. Friar Rit remains impassive. The sea's caress. Your Highness. Contemplate impermanence. Not Aunt Prey's skincare regime. Halfway through, disaster nearly strikes. A palace macaw, startled by a gong, swoops screeching past the pavilion. Prince Somdet jerks his head. Friar Rit's hand, mid-stroke, falters. The shell razor skitters, leaving a tiny, almost invisible nick just above the prince's left ear. A bead of crimson blooms. Silence crashes down, heavier than temple bells. The chanting monks falter. Friar Rit freezes, his face the color of uncooked rice. Even the cicadas seem to hold their breath. Historians debate the ritual's purpose, but this consequence is crystal clear. Nicking the air is very bad for one's career longevity. Maybe even one's head. You move without thought. Dipping the swan feather quickly, you dab a spot of jasmine oil onto the nick. The sea spirit's blessing mark, Your Highness, you announce, voice surprisingly steady. A drop of courage drawn forth. Rare. Auspicious. Prince Somdet tentatively touches the spot, eyes wide. Courage? Truly? Friar Rit exhales shakily, catching your eye. A flicker of profound gratitude. Truly, Highness. He intones, recovering his composure. The most auspicious nicks require the bravest princes. Now, hold very still. He resumes, his strokes even more deliberate. The nick stops bleeding. Hidden under a sheen of oil and your quick thinking. The quartz pebble pulses once, cool against your racing heart. As the final strands fall, Prince Somdet's newly bare scalp gleams under the sun. He touches it, wonder replacing dread. Friar Rit presents the mother-of-pearl bowl filled with his shorn hair. Impermanence, Your Highness, he says softly. The prince nods. Uncharacteristically solemn. You gather the sacred shell razors for cleansing. One bears the faintest, almost invisible, pink tinge on its pearly edge. A tiny flaw. A scar. Proof of a moment's fear. Averted disaster, and a courage mark claimed. The pebble tugs sharply, urgently, southward. Away from perfumed palaces and shell razors. Toward salt, sweat. And the rustle of sugarcane under a fiercer sun. Time to become someone else again. Someone who definitely doesn't wield blades near royal ears. The lingering scent of Siamese jasmine oil and royal panic dissolves into the raw, sweet stink of crushed sugarcane and sweat. One moment you're dabbing a prince's scalp, the next. Fijian sun hammers your back like a blacksmith's hammer, and your hands, still remembering the cool slide of a shell razor, are now blistered raw around the handle of a cane knife. That persistent quartz pebble is a familiar, comforting weight against your hip bone, a cool anchor in the swelter. Around you, the cane fields rustle like a green, whispering sea, taller than a man. Swallowing sound and hope with equal ease. Mainstream fact, between 1879 to 1916, over 2,000 Maldivians were lured or coerced into indentured labor, Jermitya, on Fijian plantations. Swapping turquoise atolls for endless, backbreaking rows of sugarcane under colonial overseers. You're here for the quiet defiance, hidden within the cane itself. Disguised as termite mounds or piled stones, stand tiny, clandestine shrines, dharmadaras, holding fragments of home, a chipped coral Buddha, a palm leaf mantra scrap. A twist of hair from a child left behind. Historians still argue whether these shrines were acts of profound faith or desperate psychological anchors against crushing displacement. Your contact here is Devi, a woman whose eyes hold the deep blue of the Maldivian lagoon she hasn't seen in 12 monsoons. She moves through the cane like a shadow. Her calloused hands tending the hidden altars during the scorching noon lull. The earth here is hungry, she whispers, handing you a smooth, water-worn pebble of black basalt, a twin to your quartz one. Feed it whispers of home. It remembers. The quirky ritual, Devi insists certain patches of cane near the shrines grow sweeter. Bending towards the hidden Buddhas like worshippers. Reality, it's likely just better soil drainage near the rock piles. But you don't contradict her. Today's task isn't cutting cane. It's rebuilding a shrine crushed by a clumsy ox cart. Overseer McNally, a man whose face resembles boiled ham left in the sun, suspects nothing beyond laziness when you linger in the thicket. The crushed shrine is a sad sight, coral fragments scattered, the tiny clay Buddha you'd smuggled from Fuvamula cracked clean in half. Devi gathers the pieces like broken eggs. Impermanence. She murmurs, but her voice cracks. This Buddha wasn't just clay, it was the face her son had touched before she boarded the ship. You remember the head barber's steady hand, the prince's fear. Precision matters, even here. Using volcanic stones pried from a boundary wall and clay mixed with juice squeezed from stolen cane, sticky, surprisingly good mortar. You start reconstructing the base. It's slow, quiet work. Sweat stings your eyes. Sandflies feast on your neck. You imagine McNally's sunburned face peeling like old paint. Small comfort. Devi carefully rejoins the Buddha halves with a paste of mashed sweet potato and ash. Sticky, but strong. Like us, she offers, a flicker of wryness in her tired eyes. She places the mended figure in the center of the rebuilt altar. Its smile is now a jagged line, one I slightly askew. Imperfect. Enduring. You add the black basalt pebble beside it. A piece of Fiji acknowledging the journey. Devi places a single, perfect sugarcane flower, stolen from McNally's prized ornamental patch, as an offering. For sweetness, she whispers. And maybe to give the overseer's prize flowers blight. Historians debate the shrine's purpose, but this feels like both prayer and grenade rolled into one. Suddenly, a whip-crack snap echoes too close. McNally. You too. Skiving again? Thought I smelt laziness. His boots crunch through the undergrowth towards the thicket. Panic freezes Devi. You act. Snatching the half-dried sweet potato paste, you smear it thickly over a fresh cut on your forearm, a real one, from yesterday's cane knife slip. Medicine, sir, you call out, voice strained. Devi's poultice. Island remedy. Stops the rot. McNally pushes through the last cane stalks, his small eyes narrowing at the crude altar, the mended Buddha, the suspicious paste. Devi shrinks back. You hold up your arm, the sticky orange mess glistening. Infected, sir. Nasty business. Devi knows the herbs. McNally wrinkles his nose at the smell, earthy, sweet, slightly fermented. He prods your arm with his cane tip. You wince convincingly. Humph, looks like pig slop. Don't linger. Fields won't cut themselves. He turns, muttering about native superstitions and useless mess. As his footsteps fade, Devi sags against a cane stalk, trembling. You wipe the paste off. The cut beneath is clean. The shrine stands. The Buddha watches, cracked but whole. Later. Hauling cane bundles under the setting sun, you pass the thicket. A single sugarcane flower, impossibly vibrant, rests on the altar. The quartz pebble pulses warmly against your hip. The basalt one cool beside it. Ahead lies the final stretch, the ocean's salt call. But here, now, in the green gloom, a tiny piece of turquoise defiance hums. Not grand. Not perfect. But here. Like the mended Buddha. Like Devi. Like the stubborn, sticky sweetness of survival itself. The cane rustles. Somewhere, McNally shouts. The pebble tugs. Almost home. The Fijian cane fields rustle one last time behind you, their green whispers fading into the rhythmic thump-thump-thump of coral dust under your worn sandals. The air tastes different now, thick with salt, heavy with the wet earth smell of imminent monsoon, and beneath it, the faint, ancient tang of submerged limestone. You're back. The Maldives. The quartz pebble in your palm pulses like a second heartbeat, warm and insistent, pulling you towards a crescent of bone-white sand fringed by leaning coconut palms. Before you, half buried by shifting dunes and serpentine roots, lies the low, crumbling outline of what was once a vihara wall. Devi's black basalt pebble rests heavy in your other pocket, a cool counterpoint. Mainstream fact: by the 14th century, rising sea levels and shifting sand dunes had already consumed many coastal Maldivian Buddhist sites. Nature collaborating with political change to erase the past. You're here for the final act, placing the last salvaged Buddha, the serene stone face you pulled from the lagoon years ago. Wrapped now in oiled cloth beside Devi's mended clay one, back into the earth, not as a secret, but as a quiet farewell. Historians still argue whether the islanders truly forgot these sites or simply chose not to see them, burying memory like the coral bricks themselves. The monsoon isn't just coming. It's breathing down your neck. Purple-black clouds boil on the horizon, swallowing stars. Wind whips the palm fronds into frantic applause. You kneel on the soft sand beside the exposed coral foundation, the grains already stinging your skin. Time feels thin here. Stretched taut between the frantic salvage of your youth and this deliberate, final surrender. You unwrap the stone Buddha first. Barnacles still cling to his earlobes like rough jewels. His half-smile remains, serene despite centuries underwater and years hidden beneath dried fish. He's heavier than you remember. The quartz pebble vibrates fiercely, almost burning your palm. You place it gently in the hollow you scoop at the center of the foundation, a tiny anchor. Then, you lower the Buddha face down over it, his serene gaze meeting the ancient coral. Pressing the pebble into the sand. Let the island hold him now. Next comes Devi's mended clay Buddha, its jagged smile a testament to resilience far from home. You tuck it carefully into a crevice within the coral blocks, sheltered from the worst of the rain. Finally, Devi's seashell, a spiral conch whispered to hold the sound of the Maldivian sea she never stopped hearing, rests against the clay figure. The quirky ritual feels right. Islanders once buried conchs beneath house pillars for protection. Let it guard this small, returned piece of soul. As you cover the figures with sand, patting it smooth. The first fat raindrops splatter your back, warm as tears. The wind howls, tearing at your clothes. You imagine McNally's ledger book, sodden and illegible, washing out to sea. Poetic. Lightning splits the sky, illuminating the dunes, the palms, the skeletal vihara wall. Thunder follows. A deep growl that vibrates the sand beneath your knees, a dragon's sigh from across the ocean. In that flash, you see it, the quartz pebble wasn't just a compass. It was a seed. Tiny. Hair-thin roots of pure white crystal are already wriggling from its surface, questing into the damp sand beneath the stone Buddha, seeking the coral bedrock. Historians debate the reasons for forgetting, but nature remembers. Coral grows. Roots find purchase. Rain pours now, a solid curtain of water washing your hands clean of dust and Fiji's soil. Soaking you to the skin. You don't move. The stone Buddha is covered. The clay one is sheltered. The conch glistens. The quartz pebble is doing what quartz does in the heart of the earth, growing. Changing, anchoring. It's not stealing the Buddha, it's becoming the foundation. A tiny, crystalline stupa forming in the dark. You touch the wet sand over the stone face one last time. Gone, gone. Gone beyond. The wind steals the words from your lips. The storm rages. And beneath the lashing rain and booming thunder, a different sound emerges, faint, impossibly deep. Resonating up through the sand into your bones. It's not the sea. It's the low, grounding thummmm of a bell scarred by coral, humming from half a world and a lifetime away. Imperfect. Enduring. Home. Wind down. The fury of the monsoon softens, slowly, reluctantly. The hammering rain gentles to a steady patter on the broad palm leaves overhead. A sound like 1,000 soft fingertips drumming on stretched leather. The wind, spent from its tantrum, sighs through the coconut fronds, weaving a softer Deeper rhythm beneath the rain's constant whisper. You're soaked, chilled, but the cold feels clean, washing away not just the sand and salt, but the dust of deserts, the grime of cities. The sweet sick smell of parlors and plantations. You sit back on your heels, the wet sand cool and yielding beneath you, watching the water sheet down. Silvered by the first hesitant moonlight breaking through the ragged clouds. The frantic energy of the storm ebbs, replaced by a profound, dripping stillness. That deep hum in the bones has faded. Not gone, but settled, like the pebble now rooted deep below, a quiet, comforting presence beneath the world's noise. The coral wall is just a darker shadow in the gloom. The sand over the Buddhas smoothed by the rain into a seamless, unmarked dune. No grand monument. No shouting defiance. Just quiet return. The ocean breathes nearby, a vast, rhythmic sigh against the reef, no longer a barrier, but a lullaby. The frantic chase, the stinging blisters, the close calls under hostile skies, they loosen their grip. Melting like salt in the warm rain. You feel the ache in your muscles soften, the tension in your shoulders dissolve, carried away on rivulets tracing paths down your arms. There's no need to be anyone else now. No smuggler, no artisan, no pretend sage. Just presence. Here. Now. Listening to the island breathe. The rain's whisper. The ocean's sigh. The deep, silent hum beneath it all. Your eyes grow heavy, lids fluttering like the wings of the storm-tossed birds now settling back into the palms. The cool sand cradles you. The air, washed clean, fills your lungs, sweet and salty. The world shrinks to this moment, the sound of water, the feel of earth, the gentle, persistent thrum of life enduring, changing, resting. Let go. The waves will keep their watch. The coral will keep its slow growth. The quiet Buddhas, above and below, are safe in the island's embrace. The journey ends where it began, not with a fanfare, but with a sigh. A release. A deep, slow breath out, matching the rhythm of the tide. Rest now. Just rest. The ocean breathes, and you are home.